Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a preview for the 2021 Players Championship. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. What I typically like to cover in these videos, I like to go over the tournament fact sheets, which gives us a ton of good general information. And then I like to look at the weather forecast to see if we need to find, certain tee time splits that will be more beneficial than the other. I also like to look at past results, which will give us a good target score to aim for. Do we need low scoring birdie makers, or do we need grinded out par makers? From there, I like to look at course history, golfers with the best course history heading into this event, looking at the golfers with the best recent form heading into this event, and see if there's any kind of correlation to success, looking at previous years. Then I like to really kind of deep dive and look at past optimal lineups with historical salaries. So I like to look at the top 10 of every single leaderboard, going back to whenever DraftKings first started playing these events or first providing these contests to us. And just trying to figure out, is there a common salary that we need to build around when it comes to lineups? And then I like to end all of this with the bucket system. And the bucket system just helps us understand just who we need to build around. Not every stat, we don't want to pick golfers that are 100% good at one thing or the other. We want to find variety, and that's what the bucket system helps. So it's not looking at golfers with the best course history and building 6-6 lineups with only golfers with the best course history. Also, not looking at the best recent form. We want a good mix, and the bucket system helps figure that out. If you're unfamiliar with it, I'll link a video top right-hand corner that will explain what it is. But I would just recommend staying throughout the video and listening to what it is, to what it provides. You can find timestamps in the description. Also, chapter mode's enabled. What that is, if you look at that progress bar on YouTube and hover over it, it's cut up into segments, and hovering over it will tell you what the segment is. So you can easily skip forward or backwards, however you want to do it. It's at your disposal. So let's go ahead, jump into the tournament fact sheets. So basically, again, this gives us a good piece of general information. Some things that it does not tell us is how many golfers are in the field. From today, Monday, it is 154 golfers in the field. I don't know if they're going to move that to 156. Typically, we would see 156 golfers in this type of field, but at the current date, it is 154. The cut is going to be top 65 in ties. That is a PGA standard for basically every tournament, not called the Masters or any no-cut event. So far, I haven't. The biggest withdrawal would be Brooks Koepka. But that was far in advance. I hope you aren't rostering Brooks. But yeah, we can go through this information. The Players Championship, commonly referred to as the 5th major championship, and there's a good reason why. The players love this tournament. It provides a very large purse. I think it's like one of the largest purses on tour, especially outside of the majors, for sure outside the majors. But 2.67 goes to the winner. 2.67 million goes to the winner. And second place gets like a measly 1.6. Golfers really care about this tournament. And you get a lot of official world golf rankings for this. Also FedEx Cup points. Like, this is a big tournament. So calling it the 5th major, it's fitting. I know some people find issue with that, but hey, it doesn't really matter what we think. It matters what the players think. The golf course, TPC Sawgrass, everyone knows this golf course. Everyone knows hole 17. Everyone is aware of this golf course and what it provides. It's a very difficult golf course that requires a lot of experience to do well at. It's a par 72 and it's under 7,200 yards, just barely, but it is. And it's tough. It forces you to hit a lot of different clubs off the tee. It's not just going to be a bomb and gouge type of golf course. There are a lot of penalties here. If you look, there are 17 water hazards. And of those 17 water hazards, 17 holes have water in play. So one of the reasons why it's difficult is because you can find trouble pretty easily at this golf course. And also, just to add a little insult to injury, we have 88 bunkers here as well. So it's a tight golf course, 5,500 square feet. We were just playing on 7,500 square feet at the last event at the Arnold Palmer, I believe. And I believe like the Workday Challenge, or the WGC Workday Championship, not Challenge, Championship, and the Genesis Invitational were all around 6,500 to 7,500. So the green size is a little bit smaller. Again, we're on a shorter track, but still difficult. Now, the next piece of information has to be one of the most interesting things, and a reason why this video is kind of coming out late is I kind of fell down the dark depths of Twitter on people talking about if grass matters on this golf course or not. Here's my take. If you're going to be pessimistic about grass stats, you should be pessimistic about every stat, because it does matter and it doesn't. Not every golfer that's good on whatever grass stat I'm going to tell you is going to do well at this golf course. Much like not every golfer who is good on strokes gain approach is going to do well at this golf course, or off the tee, or tee to green, or putting. Not everyone. But the fact that this is overseeded with bent grass and POA is going to matter, because the Bermuda that would typically be here isn't playing a huge factor. So golfers who have played this on Bermuda know certain, ridges and stuff like that, know how the grass reacts. Just knowing how the grass is cut is a big deal. That matters, because that is a part of the calculation. When it's POA or bent, you don't have to calculate those types of things. You don't have to calculate grass being into, or the grass being into the grain or down grain. Like, it's a big deal. And the pessimists out there, it's funny to listen to, because obviously, I would venture to guess they're not that good, or they just haven't played enough golf courses to understand how important that is. I would challenge any of you guys who are pessimistic about it to go and play on a Bermuda track if you haven't played Bermuda, or if you're used to Bermuda, come play on a rye golf course or a bent grass golf course. It's going to be completely different. Anyways, that's my rant. It's overseeded all the way through. You have overseeded greens, you have overseeded rough, tees, fairways, and you can see what they are overseeded with. I presented something on Twitter. I know not all of my viewers on YouTube are following me on Twitter, but basically with overseed, here's a quick rundown. I've noticed two ways of overseeding throughout my time. Actually, one way is overseeding and one way is resodding. Overseed, what you typically would do, I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of aeration, how a golf course is aerated. People hate it. People hate golfing after, holes are punched into the golf course. That's called aeration. That happens when reseed happens. So you punch those holes, and then you fill those holes with sand and seed. So the new seed, the overseed, plus you top dress them. So you're leaving like a little small layer of sand over everything, so that the new grass grows over. And it basically takes over the entire golf course. Whatever's overseeded is the grass you're playing on. Regardless of this saying Bermuda, it is overseeded with whatever that grass is that you see. Ryegrass or POA or bent. I'm personally going to be looking at bent grass. I know it says POA, and I've said in the past that POA is a more dominant grass, but I think what I've read, all of my notes for this golf course, says to trust bent grass. And I'll also provide results for 2019 and 2018, since 2020 never happened last year, of how bent grass plays. Good bent grass golfers play well at this golf course. I should say, oh, that's great. Look at the additional notes. I just realized this, which means the overseeded turf is the playing surface for the event. It's lovely. My little rant, I could have just read this to you guys and not even had to deal with it. But that interrupted me, distracted me for a second there. This event was moved from May to March. It says this is the 4th year. So when you're looking past 4 years ago, so what would that be? 2016, I think. So looking back 2016 to 2013, that would be an event in May and on Bermuda. So you have to think differently when it comes to the two. Not entirely, because obviously the golf course layout is it's relatively the same. Just a different type of grass, which really only affects putting, but it also makes chipping and short game around the green much easier. Bermuda's way more difficult to hit out of than ryegrass. Way more difficult. So those are stats that you should look at if you're looking for grass stats. And then Pete Dye. That's the other big thing about this. This is a Pete Dye golf course. It's his beauty. It's his whatever you want to call it. His king of all golf courses is this one, at least on the tour. The golf course, the PGA West golf course that's played for the American Express, was supposed to be a desert copy of this golf course. So if you're looking for comparable golf courses to look at, the American Express would be a good one to look at and then compare it to this one. But Pete Dye, I've played on a couple tracks myself. I've never been able to putt well on Pete Dye. And I know the big thing that people talk about with Pete Dye is he gives you different visuals. Like he tries to play tricks on your mind. I can tell you he does that on the greens as well. So having good Pete Dye history is going to matter, and I will also provide that when I look at grass stats. So let's go ahead and get into the next piece, which is going to be the weather forecast. So I have Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida up here. If you didn't know, it's a southeast suburb. It's right on the coast of Jacksonville. So it's more in northern Florida. More reason to understand why it's overseeded, because it's a bit colder than the last event, the last two events we were at, which I think it was like Tampa and Orlando. So anyways, by Jacksonville, weather looks spectacular. We're looking Thursday through Sunday, and also looking at wind gusts, which looks to be not so much gusts. I don't think it really gives us what a gust is on this site. There are better sites, by the way. But average wind mile per hour, 10 to 12, that's okay. Anything over 12, like anything around like 15, I would say, that's when it becomes a little bit problematic. Wind is the biggest factor. It affects the golf ball way more than any other type of weather. I mean, you can make the argument that cold weather would as well, which is true, but that affects more of your body and not being able to compress the ball based off your golf swing. I think it's like every 10 degrees difference, the ball travels 2 yards shorter. So take that with what you want. That is without any conditions like affecting your body. But the colder it gets, the more it affects your body, the less swing speed you're going to have, which is great for us Minnesotans up here. We're used to it. Anyways, weather looks perfect. I don't have anything to talk about weather. I would suggest for you guys on Wednesday night to look at your weather forecasts, see if anything's changed with wind, but it looks like it's going to be nearly perfect for this event. So we don't have to really worry about it. All right, let's get into the spreadsheet. And what I want to pull up is the past results. Now, what I like to do here with past results, just look at the winning score year in, year out, and see if we can find kind of an average score. So what I'm seeing, it's going to be around 13 under, 13 to 15 under, something like that. We have Rory in 2019, who is technically the defending champion, with 16 under. Webb, 18 under. That was the lowest score we've seen over the last 6 years. Tiger won this in 2013 at 13. Keimer also 13 under. And then it's 12, 15, 10. Honestly, it's right around that 13 to 14 under mark. I would assume this week, with the weather looking the way it is, we're going to see numbers, a target score closer to 15 or 16. So I do believe birdie or better, that kind of stuff is definitely going to matter. I think scoring conditions are going to be optimal. So actually, I would say somewhere between 15 to 18 under is what I'm going to guess. I don't think it's going to go over 18 under. So for those of you that are playing on statement games like I like to, they usually have that tournament score plus or minus. If it's at that 20 mark, go under. If it's like 16, I'd almost push to go over. So definitely consider that. But that's basically all I like to do with looking at the past results, because we just go right from there into course history, I believe, right? Yes. So looking at course history, I've sorted it out by golfers that are playing in the field and by the best course history average. Now, you see some guys up here that have only played one event. You know, that they're going to be up here because they just have that one event under their belt. So we have Abraham Ancer, had a great showing last year, finished 12th. Same with Joel Damon, 12th. And then JT Poston, 22nd. Let's go ahead and get rid of golfers who've only played this once. Actually, I want to show you golfers who are debutants. So they are debuting here the first time. We have Victor Hovland and Max Homa. I'm just going to name some notable guys. You obviously can see on the screen who are some of the, other golfers. Sam Burns is a debutant. I don't have 2020 results. The one round they played in 2020, I don't have that. So some of these guys probably did play last year. But I'm going to stay true to my process. It's a finished tournament. I think that's going to matter. Morikawa shows up, Sebastian Munoz, Doc Redman, Scotty Scheffler, Will Zalatoris. I'm guessing some of these guys did play last year, right? If I look at the 2020 recent form page. Sanjay. There was Colin Morikawa, so he did play. Victor Hovland did as well. Scotty Scheffler? Yeah, Scotty Scheffler played. Okay. So let's just skip that. I'm not going to go through every golfer to see if they played one round last year, but you can obviously see the golfers that I have currently without results looking back from 2020 to 2013. But let's go ahead, grab everyone except for the 0 and 1s and look to see who has the best course history coming into this event. Tommy Fleetwood is the top guy. 17.67, hasn't had a worse finish than 41st. 2 top 10s prior to that. I wish I could remember anything that happened last year. I know he was a favorite heading into this tournament. I don't know how well he was doing. Second on the list is Adam Scott. 100% cut made percentage. So if you want to go with that, he has not missed a cut here. I'm not sure if I care to play him, but that's a really good course history. Rory McIlroy comes in third with a miscut. Now, if we remove the miscut, his average finishing position is 11.67. But obviously, he did miss the cut, so it's 22.14. That's third best in this field, and one of the reasons that I like him a lot at this event. You can see the rest of the guys on the board. I think for me, I want to say I'm trying to find golfers that are popping out that, it's like, yeah, we definitely want to play them based off a course history average, but I'm not really seeing it. I think if we look at Dustin Johnson and get rid of his withdraw, 31.67, so he would be right above Webb. I guess if we take away Webb's miscut, he's at 22.8, so he would be fourth in the field with good course history. So we have a lot of good golfers here that have a good course history. Now, what I kind of care to look at is cut made percentage, especially with golfers who have more than 2 events under their belt, really. So we see Richie Wierenski. He has 100% cut made percentage in this field, but he's only played the event twice. Same goes with Bryson DeChambeau, but I think I probably give a little bit more forgiveness for that, 2 events played for him, since he's that much better of a golfer than Richie. But either way, those are golfers with 100%, 2 events under their belts. Some other guys down here with not the greatest course history, but still 100% cut made percentage. I don't know if really anything pops out other than Fleetwood, Scott, and Garcia. Like, they have 100%. Scott and Garcia's played this event 7 times. That's pretty good. So I guess what we want to do is look at their price tag and see if it matches. Are they cheap enough where they're just an auto pick, or are they expensive enough where we have to think about win equity, who we think is a better chance to top 10 or win. Scrolling down a little bit, we actually have a bunch of golfers here with 7 events under their belt. It's all at 85% cut made percentage. You have Rory, Matt Kuchar, Dustin Johnson, Chris Kirk, Ian Poulter. And by the way, Chris Kirk, that's actually a withdraw. For him missing the cut, that was actually a withdraw. So Chris Kirk, put that on your back pocket. Ian Poulter is one with 1 missed cut. That makes sense, right? Zach Johnson missed his cut in 2019. Prior to that, he was 100%. Bubba Watson, 85%, and Jason Duffner at 85%. And I think a couple notables down here that I suppose it's just really Hideki and Webb. 83% for both of those guys. So obviously that means they played 1 less event, missed only 1 cut each. And Hideki was your first round leader last year. So definitely consider that into your picks. And then the last thing I like to do with course history is look at the most top 10s at this event. Rory is your leader with 4. Nobody else has 4 or more. We go down. Sergio Garcia, Jason Day, and Francesco Molinari they all have 3 top 10 finishes. So another good reason to play Rory. Great course history. Cut made percentage is good. Top 10s. It looks good. So from here, what I like to do is go to the recent form. So I have the 2021 recent form up. Let me go ahead and throw a filter on this. So looking from top down, your golfers with the best recent form coming into this event. Tony Finau, 5.5 is his average finishing position. He has 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s really, but really 4 top 14s. He's been playing really good golf, and I don't mind him here. Honestly, I think it would be a decent play. This should be course history, not tournament history, but course history looks kind of shaky, but I don't think we really need the greatest course history to do well at this tournament, and we'll look at that in the buckets. Patrick Cantlay is second on the list. I mean, you can look at everyone here. Louis withdrew last week prior to the tournament starting, so we can actually chalk that to him not playing because he was replaced. So he didn't start the event. Therefore, he doesn't get a withdraw designation. But he has 100% cut made percentage. So if you choose to play him, $7,800, you could do worse. But then there's Max Homa, who's been playing a lot of events. 17.29 is his average finishing position. 7,600 is not terrible. Jason Kokrak at 7,700, not terrible. 7,100 for Christian Bezuidenhout. That's pretty darn good. And then obviously you can see some of the other guys. Andrew Putnam's 100% cut made percentage, and decent recent form. A lot of good guys up here, honestly. I'm not really gonna go into. Yeah, I don't have this set up the same as course history, so we're not gonna look at the most top 10s leading into this event. I just want to show you what the top recent form golfers are, because basically what we're going to do is kind of go into a deeper dive kind of with the stats to try to figure out what makes a good optimal play. Let's actually cover grass stats right now. That's one thing I forgot to do. Usually what I would like to do is go from course history to grass stats. And let's hide these buckets for now. So as we look, we actually have 2 things to cover. We have the grass stat and then we have the architect. So I'm going to be covering bent grass stats, you know, the golfers with the best bent grass stats coming into this event, and overall die. Peak die golf courses, overall average. We can look at the 2020 average. We can also look at the top 10 percentage for peak die. I have all that information. Usually only like 4 events on tour are played on Pete Dye golf. I think it's 5. 5 events are played on Pete Dye golf courses any given year. They might add 1 more or 2 more depending on, you know, where the major championship venue is. But the reason we're going to use bent grass, I wanted to show you this. Can't look at 2020 because that year didn't really happen. But looking at 2019, if I look at bent grass stats, if you look at everyone who has a top 10 bent percentage, everyone is over 20%. Not everyone. Most golfers are over 20% inside the top 10. I guess, let's see, top 10 is from Hideki up. My typical rule is 5% or higher is what I'm always choosing. Obviously, Eddie Pepperell coming from the Euro Tour. I don't have bent grass stats on Eddie Pepperell. So other than if he were to play on the PGA Tour. So this probably was his first event. But looking at the other golfers with their top 10 percentage on bent grass, everyone's over 5, but most of them are over 20. If I were to put a filter on this, I don't know why it looks weird, and I were to filter by your top bent grass, we see a bunch of guys here inside the top 20. Now it's middling, you know, finishes outside of that, but what do I have here? 7 golfers that finish inside the top 20 that are within the top 20 of that stat. Actually, this counts as top 20. So we have 8. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 missed cuts, and everyone else made the cut. Looking at just overall bent grass stats. So to me, bent grass is probably the way to go with this. I'm not sure if there are other stats that look better than that, but definitely. And then if I were to sort by Pete Dye, well, these are actually golfers who, minus Patrick Cantlay, hadn't played that many Pete Dye golf courses. I know my stats for 2019 look a little different than what I have now. I have events to show you how many events they played, that kind of thing. I didn't in 2019. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. But you can see we still have a lot of top 20s, you know, looking at Pete Dye stats. And I'm actually going to exclude the top 3 guys, but I will include Patrick Cantlay. So if I'm looking at, you know, just the count of top 20s that we have 8 top 20s that have good Pete Dye, you know, looking at the top 20 Pete Dye, and then 3 missed cuts. So Pete Dye is definitely something to look at. But actually, I don't think I have 2018's bent grass stats. No, I didn't look at it. So unfortunately, I don't have that. But looking at 2019, kind of looked like a good idea to do bent grass at the top. And Hideki from last year being the first round leader, his best grass is bent grass. From my memory. Let me see. 2020, or to hide these. So where is Hideki? Right here. What is his bent grass? Yeah, so 2020 or 22 is his overall average. I guess if I were to look here, go top down, he would be right here. Yeah, Hideki Matsuyama was the 5th best bent grass golfer. So in the field for last year's event. And if he was the first round leader, shot the course record, or for one round, that is. Yeah, I'm thinking it's bent grass. I think it's definitely the grass we want to be looking at is bent grass. So in this field, who has the best bent grass stats? I'm guessing Hideki's going to be right up there. He's now 3rd. Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Hideki Matsuyama, Dustin Johnson, Justin Rose, Jordan Spieth. You can see the rest of the guys on the list there. I'm not going to cover everybody, but it wouldn't be bad to anchor your lineups with one of those guys. Looking at top, well, actually, let's reverse it, because I want to look at golfers with greater than 5%. I want to see if any guys really kind of catch my attention, and I think Doug Gim, Doc Redman, Christian Bezuidenhout. I know a lot of guys are on that, or a lot of people in the industry are on those guys. I mean, yeah, they could show up. Obviously, it can happen, but I'm not putting a lot of investment in those guys just because they have poor Bentgrass stats. Looking at some of these other guys, oh man, I like Peter Malnati this week, but not very good. He's played 38 events, 3%. I guarantee you the Bentgrass event this year that he finished 5th in, you can see he has an average of 5 for 2021 Bentgrass. I guarantee you that is his only top 10, which, hey, if he's now better on Bentgrass, then a good reason to play him. Shane Lowry seems like another guy that would probably do well. I know he's done well at this golf course before. But yeah, having 3% as your top 10 bent percentage, not very good. Again, it's greater than 5. The rest of the guys kind of middling. There's no one else that really pops out. So Maverick McNeely, maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to cover any more of the Bentgrass. I gave you the, basically your top 20 in Bentgrass. Let's go ahead and look at overall Pete Dye. Again, I think this is going to matter. Your number one golfer of stats, Pete Dye, finishing positions. That's what this column is right here. It's finishing positions. So don't get it confused. I know there are strokes gained stats out there, whatever. But for finishing position, Rory McIlroy, 22.69, the leader on Pete Dye golf courses. Followed by Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Kuchar, Patrick Cantlay, Christian Bezuidenhout, which he only has one event under his belt, Dustin Johnson, Victor Hovland, who only has 3 events under his belt, and 0% Pete Dye. I'm not sure if I'm going to kind of go over that same rule that I would with grass stats when it comes to play 5% or greater. I guess if I look at 2019, I don't even have that stat for Pete Dye, which is a bummer. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes in the review video. See if any of these guys actually pop up inside the top 10. It's a possibility, obviously. Sergio Garcia, Adam Scott, Webb Simpson, a lot of the golfers you would anticipate being up here. Your cheap guy is Ian Poulter, who has more than, say, one event. Obviously Christian Bezuidenhout is the same price, but Poulter has 19 events, 35.53 is his average finishing position, 21.05% finishing inside the top 10 at Pete Dye tracks. And then looking at 2020, this is also including the American Express. So this would actually have Siwoo Kim's win included, and I'm not sure where he is. I'm really interested to see where Siwoo is. 46.75. So he has a win. Everything else was bad. And his overall, so he's won on 2 Dye events, I believe, right? So 19 events. 19 events, not the greatest on Pete Dye. So I don't take that as you will. But yeah, I wanted to see what it looked like. I don't put a lot of stock in this. This was like 5 events total. There were 4 events total. There were 2 events that were canceled that were Pete Dye tracks. So I think, I can't remember off the top of my head, but still, I'm not putting a lot of stock into this. I'm more or less looking at your overall Dye course. So like Rory McIlroy with his Bentgrass stats, he's number 2 with Bentgrass. He's number 1 on Pete Dye. Trying to find John Rahm. I don't see John Rahm. Oh, John Rahm's right down here. 12 events for Pete Dye golf courses, 36.33 is his average finishing position. Still a good top 10 percentage, but if I'm picking one that's over 10K, it's going to be Rory. Rory by far has the best grass stats and Pete Dye stats for this event. So that was grass stats. Now I really like to dig down and kind of hone in on what makes a good GPP lineup. So I first like to start with historical salaries and optimal lineups. So when we come to the historical salaries page, what you're going to see a lot of, let me actually shrink this a little bit so it shows up. I thought I had already done this. We don't need these to be that big. Okay. Oh my goodness, that's still too large. Okay. So what I like to do here is capture all of the top 10 golfers and what their salaries are. You can see that right here in this bucket. Obviously 2021 is not populated yet because we haven't finished it. And you don't see 2020 on there because that tournament was canceled. Basically, this is just raw stats. What I like to do is then I throw them in these two buckets basically, and then sort by the highest count of a salary. You can see it's not very large. We do see some repeat offenders, 7,300, 6,800, 6,900. Those seem to be salaries that show up inside the top 10 year in and year out. And then if you look at top 5, this even narrows it down even more. 7,300 and 7,200 seem to be the two salaries. So that low 7K range, play multiples, play 2, and even maybe dip your toes into 6K range, but not very far. As you can see, 68, 69, I guess we see 67 and 161. Not a really good percentage. But we also have these summary boxes over here that kind of help us understand the information a little bit better. Basically, pick a column and then look at the basically the field and go over on the row to figure out what those stats are. So the winner, the minimum price for a winner was $6,600. Trying to find that. Why was that? Did that show up and I just can't see it? Are these numbers even looking at the right stuff? Oh, no, they're not. There you go. That was my error. My apologies. We're going to see a little bit different picture now. Pesky spreadsheets. Compelling stuff, I know. I didn't see 6,600 as one of the main salaries, so I was kind of weirded out by that. Okay, so now it changes a lot. 68 and 69 show up more often than any other salary. And then obviously 7,300 still is up there. Now I have 6,600, which happened twice. Again, coming back to the summary boxes over here, what the information you see in these summary boxes, what it tells you is the frequency basically of where these salaries finish up inside the top 10. So obviously average finishing position or the average salary of top 10s is $8,200 for the winner. Top 5 is 77, top 10 is 77 as well. That's a pretty low number. I think last week we saw something around 7,800, but the closer it is to like the average salary that DraftKings allows, so 8,300, the better mix of 10, 11, 9, 8K golfers inside the top 10 with 7 and 6K golfers, that would prove to be more balanced. This is obviously saying more low price guys finish inside the top 10. And a really good proving stat is looking at these columns and then the price range going across. So if we look at below 7K, inside the top 5, we've seen 7. Inside the top 10, we have 13. Of all golfers inside the top 10, that makes up 41, almost 42% of golfers inside the top 10 of each player's championship where DraftKings has held a contest. So obviously that's either saying DraftKings is bad with their pricing, which I know they're not. They basically go by the odds of a golfer. Or this tournament is just open to everybody, which I believe that's more of the case. It's more open to everybody. But seeing 41% inside the top 10, that is crazy. Diving a little bit deeper, the analysis box that we see here, I keep track of the top 5s and top 10s for each price range. So you can see the total amount of golfers in each of these buckets, because that's basically what this is. These are all buckets. There were 316 golfers below 7K in 2017, 2018, and 2019. Of the 316, obviously we see there were 13 top 10s, there were 7 top 5s. That accounts for 2.2% of that bucket for top 5s and 4.1% for top 10s. So the top 10 percentage, pretty darn low. But you can see we need to find those 6K golfers. We also need to find 7K golfers. Together, both of these equal out to be 70%, 71% basically. So like, you need to be building your lineups with 7 and 6K golfers. I guess I shouldn't say you need to. The past has proven you need these golfers in your lineups. Sure, every single year can be different, but I'm just letting you know what the trend is. Another trend I like to do, which I don't necessarily have stats to show you on, is basically just looking at 10K golfers. How often do we see them inside the top 10? I've highlighted all of them. So 2019, we saw a few more. In 2018, we only saw 1 inside the top 5, which is what you kind of want to see with an 11K golfer. 2017, you can see nobody broke 9K. Everyone was under the 9K threshold, which is very uncommon, crazy. But to go a step further, I like to look at optimal lineups. And I would say this, anything earlier than 2019 was more or less an eyeball test. It wasn't actually looking at DraftKings points and seeing what the optimal lineup was that way. It was just grabbing everyone who was like at the top of the leaderboard. So I could be a little bit off, but as you can see, everyone inside the top 10 for 2017 was under 9K. And really, it was under 8.5. Adam Scott only being the only guy that was 8,500. Now, I don't have points added up for this year. Usually I do that when it comes to looking at these. But you could have grabbed 6 golfers who finished inside the top 20. I mean, I'm always looking to find 6 golfers that fit inside the top 10. But a consolation is better if you're winning a GPP, obviously. 1,200, you would have grabbed the most expensive guy, grab Brooks, grab an 8K, and then your 2 6Ks and a 7K in 2017. In 2018, the optimal lineup would have included an 11K golfer. 11K golfer with a bunch of 7Ks to equal out 47.7. Now that's a bit ridiculous. I'm not one of those that is going to try to harp and say you need to consistently find the optimal lineup all the time. You need to leave $2,000 on the table or $3,000 on the table. That's ridiculous. So a more realistic lineup, I'm trying to figure that one out. I guess I already have it marked. Yeah, I would probably say if we took like Schwartzel out and put Fleetwood, so we would add 5 guys inside the top 10 and 1 guy who finished 11th. This would have won a GPP. This is probably more of a realistic lineup. So still, it includes an 11K golfer, 11K and above, just like it did in 2017. But this one has a few more 7Ks where In 2017, the ones that we went through, we went with 12, 2 8s, 2 6s, and a 7. But yeah, that would be 2018. 2019, this one would actually, shoot, I don't have the optimal lineup points, but I do have the GPP winning lineup, which was 49,900. That included most guys inside. I mean, everyone, that's not true. Everybody but one guy finished inside the top 5, and I have no idea, or the top 10, I have no idea where that other guy is. Apparently, I forgot to mark him. Let's see if we can figure it out, though. 9-5, 8-8, 6-1, 7-1, 10-8. We're at 42,300, so 600 is what we're looking for. 7,600. Maybe it is here. Oh, there he is. Ian Poulter. So that was your winning lineup. A guy who finished 56th place with a bunch of guys who finished 12th place or better. And really 4 guys inside the top 5, which is what you kind of need. But looking at the optimal lineup, 49,100 is pretty doable. Snedeker, 11K golfer once again, even including a 10K. So we had 3 6Ks and a low 7K in the optimal lineup in 2019. So again, we need some kind of mix of 7K and 6K. I think I would reserve 3 of my spots for 6 or 7K. 2 6s, 1 7, or 2 7s, 1 6, or maybe even 3 7s. That's probably how I want to start building my lineups, is that way. And then filling in the rest. Again, I'm not trying to get cute. I'm not trying to leave a lot of money on the table. I'm just really interested to see what these optimal lineups are. So going back to the salaries, it all kind of comes, full circle. We do want to find 6K golfers. And we don't even have to find cheap 6K golfers. 68, 69, that's pretty good. We could drop down to 67 or 66, but you can see 66, 67, 68, 69. You don't have to go any cheaper than that. You don't have to. But yeah, 7K is probably the bread and butter. I definitely would consider doing that. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the buckets. As I noted earlier in the video, if you want to know what these buckets entail or want a description, I provided a video, top right-hand corner. I can't do it twice, so I can't say, hey, check it out, but it was early on in the beginning of the video. This year, we do not have last year stats. Like, we don't have a last year bucket for this tournament, which is unfortunate. Basically, a quick breakdown of the bucket system. It's just a way to figure out who we need to play and how many. It puts golfers into these buckets based off of their finishing position from last year and last week. And then based off the frequency of how many of those types of golfers finish inside the top 10, I rank them. And then I provide those ranks every single tournament. It looks a lot like this. If I were to open this up, usually we would have a last year bucket score here, and we'd have a last week bucket score. And I usually color code them based off a last year bucket, but this tournament, I did it for last week. And I feel like we're going to have to do that a couple times this year because a lot of tournaments were canceled last year, which is fine. I don't mind going with the last week bucket. It's a pretty solid bucket to go with. But yeah, we would definitely look at last year's finishing position, last week's finishing position, rank the frequency of all of those buckets, and then apply them to these golfers based off of what their actual finishing positions were. And then I also look at course history buckets and recent form buckets. So I apply all this here and then basically do a rundown of the golfers of who I like in each of those buckets. You can see there's an SGB, which means strokes gained bucket. I cover that in the strategy video. And then I like to average them out and rank them, but we're not going to be doing that right now. Going back to the buckets, I use the top 10 percentage or the top 10 buckets. I have 2 of them. I have a top 5 for last year, last week. I have a top 10 for last year, last week. The number 1 bucket for, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about last year. No point in talking about any of this information right here because it doesn't apply. We don't have last year stats, but we can talk about last week's stats. So your number 1 bucket coming into this event, if you what bucket finishes inside the top 10 more often than not? Golfers who did not play the week before. So those who took the API off are better suited to finish inside the top 10 than any of the other buckets that I have. And I go by finishing positions by 20s. So first to 20, 21 to 40, 41 to 60, 61 to 80, or 20 to 40, 40, 60, 60, 80, so on and so forth. Your number one bucket, golfers who did not play. Now, there's a good reason to that. If you look at this column here, the top 10 percentage, this is basically looking at the field, the total amount of golfers that were in this bucket over the last 7 years, going back to 2013, last 8 years. This percentage here shows you the frequency within that bucket that it shows up inside the top 10. So this says 7%, which isn't good. It's not terrible, but it's not good. The reason for that being is it's one of the highest volume buckets. So there are total 369 golfers that fall into this bucket. That's obviously a very large number. Trying to determine if even these numbers are correct. Here, let me do something really quick. Yeah, the numbers are actually larger. Just trying to figure out how many rows that I actually have in my spreadsheet. Sorry, this is taking a little while. Wouldn't be more than that, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so it's even larger than we thought. 2015, really? That many golfers? Oh, I think 2015 was actually the match play. Yeah, world match play. So a lot of... I suppose. I don't know if that's correct. (2015F) Yep, that's correct. Crazy. Well, I mean, it was the match play, so not everyone actually plays in the match play. Okay. Anyways, so it's much more, and the percentage goes down. The reason why that's the number one bucket is because the volume is that much larger, which means it's going to be really difficult to figure out which one of those golfers. I usually like to use the min-max. You know, there's usually one golfer out of this bucket that finishes inside the top 10, but we have a max up to 5. So if you're selecting golfers, you know, to build your lineups around, I typically would never go over 5. So if we're looking at, you know, building lineups and I filter out by all the last week ones, I'm not going to select more than 5 of these guys. I'm going to select at least 1, but usually I'm not going to select over 5. And you can see in the field right now, there are 49 golfers. I'm a little bummed that I didn't have the spreadsheets actually updated the way that I needed them to be updated. There's a lot of stuff going on this week. Totally forgot some of this stuff. See, these are going to pull in. If I don't delete them, they're going to pull in because they're still empty in the columns that I'm looking for. It's not going to matter. So let me go back to the buckets. So that would be your number one bucket. Number 2 bucket, golfers coming in first to 20. That took a lot longer than I anticipated, but here, I'll reward you guys. If you've came this far and you're still listening, I will give you access to the optimizer that I do in all my strategy videos. If you haven't seen it, I definitely that would consider looking it up. I don't have it ready for you, and it kind of takes a little bit time to load, so I'm not going to waste more time. But to reward you for going through that, all you have to do is on Twitter, retweet the video when this comes out, give it a like, and I will reach out to you. I'll direct message you because I'm assuming you're retweeting it because you want the optimizer. If you don't have Twitter, leave a like on this video, comment in the comment section, and then email me. So you're gonna have to email me, which is in the description below, that you're interested in grabbing this, the optimizer. My reward for you for having to go through that. But anyways, moving on. Last week bucket, 2s are golfers who finish first to 20. And you can see the frequency is much greater with that. You know, looking at the entire bucket of last week 2s, you know, the cumulative going back to 2013, 14% show up inside the top 10. It's a good number. It's not one that says you absolutely have to play it. I mean, we have a minimum of 0. But then we also have a max of 8 in 2015. Oh, 2015 doesn't count. Unbelievable. We can't have, this has to be X'd. And the reason being is because that was a match play. There's no way, because the week before, it's a weird way of putting together the stats. Man, I was really on my game before doing this video. Good thing the buckets don't really change, because these are actually automated to update based off of this number. So nothing really changed that much. Now the max goes down to 4. Things are better. Top 10 percentage isn't as high. Still good. And then versus the rest of the top 10%, it's up there. So what I would say in conclusion, for the last week bucket, it is kind of up in the air. Like, a lot of these numbers are really close to each other. Not one is pulling away from the other that much. So you want to be selecting from as many different finishing positions from last week. So if someone did do poorly, like 40 to 60, hey, it shows up inside the top 10, a pretty good rate, 15% almost. And then looking at the bucket, it's actually your best bucket to try to select someone from, because I'm guessing it's a lower bucket. We're looking at the 40 to 60. Yeah, there are only 75 golfers usually in that bucket. This week, there's only 17. Something's not right. HH. I guarantee you this is wrong. This is... Oh my goodness. HH is right. Definitely want to look at that. I wonder if... Oh, I know what it is. We're looking at column 52. That is so weird. Why would it do it that way? There we go. That is much better. Glad to be able to think on the fly. Holy crap. Anyways, that 40 to 60 range, 75 golfers typically. Did that number go up now? No, it's still the same. So you're going to have an easier way to figure out, you know, of 17 golfers who were a last week 4, I guess we can take a look right now. Basically, you want to find what, 14%? Was that what it was? 12%. So looking at all the last week 4s, not a lot. And it's headed by Victor Hovland, Kevin Na, Brendan Todd. I mean, here's some low 7K guys and some 6K guys that you could choose to play. You know, if I were to, you know, filter out all the zeros and everyone under 5%, which is kind of my thing, it leaves us with even a smaller pool of golfers to choose from, 13. How about your best Pete Dye golfer? It'd be Victor Hovland, then Alex Noren, and then it drops off considerably. Top bentgrass golfer, Victor Hovland, Sebastian Munoz. So, oh, that's 2021 bent. I'm sorry. Here is overall bent. Hovland's still in the lead. Then it's Ben An. Zach Johnson. Alex Noren's still up there, but yeah, I mean, choose your best golfer, who you think is the best one out of this group. I might play more flyers in this group than reach up to Victor Hovland. Again, it's 14%. So in a way, I might just only select of 100 lineups, 14 of them will have these guys in it. I might do it something like that. We'll see. Anyways, the next piece to go with the buckets is the course history in recent form. So again, I like to look at course history average, throw them into these ranges, and then also the same with recent form. So your number one course history range would be golfers who have a course history of 40 to 60. And basically, I can show you what this looks like because I know it might be difficult to look at something like that and go, what? That doesn't make any sense. But in 2019, these golfers here inside the top 10 had that 40 to 60 course history range. So Jim Furyk, Johnny Vegas, Dustin Johnson, Justin Rose. Go to 2018. We're looking at 40 to 60 as well. A slew of them, all inside the top 5. So it's telling you course history, good course history doesn't necessarily matter, but having some course history and having somewhere in the middle matters the most. So yeah, this is a good way to point out why the bucket system is good, because it can highlight stuff like this. You know, I can tell you, you don't have to worry about course history. At the same token, obviously don't play 100% of golfers inside that course history range, because you can see course history, it's all over the place. Now, if I were to go ahead and pull up the recent form tab, your number one would be 20 to 40 recent form, and then 1 to 20. That 1 to 20 range is actually your recent form bucket 4. But yeah, 20 to 40 is what we're looking. So if we go back to 2019, we're looking for 20 to 40. It would not include this number, but it would include these. So we have 3. You see many more actually better than 20. How many do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 2019. If I pull up that buckets, do we have 5 in 2019? 4. Greater than or equal to 20. Or less than or equal to 20. Why is it not pulling in this one? Oh, this one is not top 10. That's why. There's only 4. So it works. So there's 4 there. 2018, a couple there. But then 20 to 40, we only have 2 there. So obviously older tournaments must have mattered more. Yeah. There's 3 there. We have no one really with really good recent form. I guess if I were to look at the averages here, oh my God, we had a ton of them. And you can see what their finishing positions were. Not great. So I'm a ton of them, meaning they're all under 20. You can see all of their finishing positions right here. That averaged out to be under 20. And that did not prove to be good coming here to the players. So yeah, your number one bucket for recent form, that 20 to 40 range, followed by the 40 to 60 range. So, 2 middling types of ranges, and then followed by 60, 80, and then 1 to 20. So again, that's your average finishing position looking back at the last 7 weeks, because that's what my recent form does. I kind of obviously going through those tabs, looking at the best recent form over the last 7 weeks. You can find them in these buckets. So to me, I would say this, come back to the strategy video, because I actually put all of these buckets together and run the optimizer based off of what we see here. I look at all the mins and the maxes and go through it from there. I'm not going to go through every single bucket in this video. I'm already over an hour long, so I'm going to leave it here with the analysis. But again, come back to the strategy video, because that's where we start peeling layers and try to really narrow down a player pool based off of the information that I've provided in this video. So let me just double check that I covered everything I wanted to. Course history, recent form, we covered the buckets, historical salaries, optimal lineups, perfect. So yeah, appreciate it. I did have a giveaway in the middle. It was during one of the painstaking time it took for me to figure out what was going on with the last week buckets. But yeah, hopefully this was very informative. Again, I'm trying to create an optimal lineup. I'm trying to win a GPP. And in order to do that, we need to identify how those lineups are built. And it requires looking at stuff like this. It's not just hammering down the best stats. It's not hammering down the best course history, best recent form, anything like that. It's taking an analysis of looking at finishing positions, basically a lot of trend analysis to see why certain players do well at this golf course versus others. And I think the bucket system does a really good job in doing that. So hopefully, again, it helps you create some good lineups. Yeah. Follow me. Obviously follow me on Twitter if you haven't. But come back tomorrow with the strategy video. We'll look at tee time pairings, put all these buckets together, and also go over strokes gained and the strokes gained buckets to really figure out who the favorite plays are. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in that strategy video tomorrow. All right, bye.